Hi everybody, it's Mark again from Christ-Centered Fitness. Before I get started, as always, I want to welcome any new followers to the page. Thank you for checking us out. For the people who've been around for a while watching the videos, giving likes and sharing content, I really appreciate each of you. I could not grow this community without you, so thank you for that. Today I want to continue on our path and talking about 4 pillars of weight loss so that we can be good stewards of our bodies. Yesterday I talked about pillar number 1, which I mentioned was a calorie deficit. In other words, eating fewer calories than we burn. Today I was going to talk about resistance training, which is the second pillar, but I realized I might be talking about what I want to talk about instead of what you need me to talk about. So in the comments below, please give me some feedback as to where you feel you would be most likely to exercise or resistance train. Would you feel most comfortable at home using resistance bands and maybe some body weight to get started? Or do you feel like maybe you'd be better to go to a gym and use some kind of machines or some free weights as a means to get out of the house so you can actually get things done? So let me know and I'll try and cater my direction accordingly. Today, we're going to skip step 2 and we're going to come to step 3, which is adequate protein intake. Now there's some hot debates on the internet about how much protein a person needs, and I really don't want to get into that too much. I just want to touch briefly on the amount that I feel is supported in the research, and I'll leave it at that and try to give you some more practical steps and how to actually achieve that. So why do we want to consume protein in the first place? We want to consume protein because, first of all, protein spares muscle. So while we're losing body fat from being in a calorie deficit, protein helps us to maintain the muscle mass that we have. Our muscle mass helps us to burn calories, and it also helps us, of course, to have some of the strength that we have. But also, as we get older in life, we tend to lose muscle mass, and having less muscle mass and strength later in life can result in falls, and falls can lead to fractures, and these can ultimately lead to death and other serious consequences. So just looking long term, we really have to consider that muscle mass is extremely beneficial to us, aside from just making us look better, which is a side benefit of stewardship. So that's fantastic as well. So we want to spare our muscle mass. Protein also is really beneficial in terms of helping make you more satiated or less hungry. So that's a bonus if we're trying to maintain a calorie deficit, as we talked about in the last video. So that's why, at least a couple of the reasons why we would want to consume adequate amounts of protein. So how much is enough? To me, we're talking about 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if you're about 150 pounds, then 150 grams of protein per day would kind of be about what I would consider near the top end of what would be appropriate for most people. Of course, you can go, rather than aiming for a specific number, I try to recommend to people to be somewhere in the range between 0.7 being kind of the low number of grams and 1 gram kind of be in the top end. And if you're in that range, I think for the most part, you're doing pretty well. So how do you know how many grams per day you're getting? Well, initially, like I said in the last video, I really encourage people, once you get past the stage of maybe reducing the amount of soda you're drinking and substituting out maybe some of the more calorie dense foods like pop and chips and ice cream for less calorie dense foods like maybe having more fruit or Greek yogurt and things like that. Once you kind of make that transition, I usually recommend that people track their nutrition by means of something like MyFitnessPal or a similar nutrition tracker, at least for a period of time. And just like when I talked about creating a calorie deficit, initially I don't really feel it as though we need to have a target amount of protein we're trying to hit, but simply for the first 2 weeks, just track what you're eating. Just keep a record. You'll see where your calories are at, but you'll also see where your protein is at relative to where maybe it should be. And then ultimately what you want to do is work towards trying to get closer to the range that you're trying to be in. I mean, you don't have to make a huge jump if you're consuming 50% of what you feel that would be an adequate target for you. You don't have to feel that you have to jump to the top end right away, really. It's just a matter of making steps in the right direction. So how do we do that? How do we get protein in? What is protein? Protein, in the simplest definition I can give you, is anything that has a face or comes from something that has a face. So those are very quick ways to determine if something is a protein source. So for example, meats and fish and things like this, these are all generally protein sources that are suitable. Things like dairy, you can get it from I like Greek yogurt a lot. You can get it from milk, even in some cheese products. There's it's not all protein. There's going to be fat in there as well, but there's some protein in that as well. You can have eggs as a protein source. So those are just some of your options. You can also use protein powders, but to be clear, there's nothing magical about protein powder. It's protein that is taken from whole foods, powdered, take out all the other maybe added or components like sugars, and they add flavoring and sell it back to you. So in terms of benefits, it's nothing magical. In terms of convenience, it can be helpful if that's something that you need. Personally, I like to use a protein shake in the morning some days just because I want to get down to business, do some work. So I just drink a shake, have a piece of fruit, and my day is good to go. So that's just something you can consider, but there's nothing inherently special about it either. As far as vegans go, if you're a non-meat or non-dairy eater, then you're going to have to make extra steps to make sure that you're getting adequate protein. So it's going to take a little bit more effort on your part. Of course, there are vegan protein powder options, and these will really make a big difference if you're seriously trying to achieve an adequate protein target, because it's harder to hit if you're not having meat and dairy, obviously. You can also use things like tofu, and you can have beans and other things like that. Of course, non-vegans can eat all these things too, but if you happen to be vegan, these are your options, and you're going to have to make additional efforts, but it can be done for sure. So that is how to do it. In terms of practical steps, I will make an observation that many people I work with and have worked with in the past have found that it's difficult to get protein in because they don't have any early in the day. So they get to dinner and realize, oh man, I haven't had very much at all. How do I get it in now before bedtime? Well, I don't feel like it, and they end up kind of being below. So my suggestion is try and get some in early in the day. That is part of the reason why I do have a protein shake with breakfast, because first of all, it gives me something in my stomach quick and easy, and also it gives me a protein bolus first thing in the morning, so I'm not trying to catch up at nighttime. So that's helpful for me. Early in the day, you may find things like eggs or things like that at breakfast or lunch, and you can also have things like yogurts or things like that as snacks early in the day, and that'll help you achieve those totals later in the day. So those are just a few tips. Again, please give me some comments about what you'd like to see with regards to resistance training below. If this video, wow, I cannot speak. If this video resonates with you, please feel free to share it with other people and help kind of get the word out there, and we can help other people become stewards of their bodies. I appreciate you guys. Thanks very much, and I'll touch base with you tomorrow.